Okay, everyone. So now we are learning the structure of C program. Structure of C program says us that what are the main components which will be there into the C program. So first of all, we are having the first component or the part which is called function main. Whenever we find a starting bracket and the closing bracket after some name, so that is called it is a function. So here main is a function because here we are having starting and the closing bracket. If you talk about the C program, wherever you are going to write this main, the program will start from there only. So we can say that main is the driving function. If you are writing a code inside the main, that will execute first. So the execution of program start from main function. Here I am taking a real life example of a program. Let us suppose that we are having a main. So I am writing a main here. Now this is a function. So after the main, we are having the starting and the ending bracket. If we want to provide some kind of code inside the main, then here we will start with the curly bracket and end with the curly bracket. So this is how we can provide the main function. By default, the main is having the void. Void stands for this function is not returning anything. But let us suppose that if you want to provide some return type here, if you are mentioning that here it is int main, that means this function is returning integer type. Then inside the program, it is compulsory that you should write the return keyword. So in the return keyword, you will return the integer value. Let us suppose that the integer value can be 1, 2 or any value depending upon your program. But maybe you are thinking that I should be returning some kind of decimal value. In that case, you need the float. So here you will say float main. So here if you are mentioning the float main, then in the return you will mention some decimal value. Let us suppose that 1.7, 1.1 or something with the decimal. So this is how the function can return something. Now understand. Let us suppose that I am a function. If you are calling me, and when you are calling, you don't want anything in return. In that case, we will provide the void. Let us suppose that you are saying me, print this statement, ask from the user, print this statement, that's it. So this is void. But let us suppose that in return, you want some answer. Let us suppose that you are giving me two numbers, 1 and 2. You want me to make the sum and give you the return. So here we will be giving the int main, and here also we will provide the integer as the return. If you want something into decimal as a return, we will provide float main, and here we will provide the float as the return. So here by default, if you are making a easy program, then by default we will take the void. So void main we will take in every program, and whatever the code we want, we will write that code inside the main. So that code will be executed first. So this is the first and the important component of the C program. Now we are going towards the second component in the structure of C program, that is the header file. If we talk about the header file, then in the C programming, there are so many libraries which are already inbuilt. Now, what are these libraries and what are their function? So first of all, understand that. Let us suppose that in my function main, I am going to write some of the print statement. Let us suppose that I am writing here that print something. So here I am using printf. We know that printf is the function for printing. So inside this printf, let us suppose that I want to print my name, Ankit. So here you understand that this printf is a function. If in the normal English language you write print, then there is no meaning. But if you are writing this printf into the C programming, then it is very powerful that it is going to show the result on the user screen. That on the screen you will be having the output Ankit. Now how it is having this output? Who is giving the powers to this function? It is the header file. Because already into the C programming, whenever you install any of the C compiler, it may be Turbo C, Dave C, or any compiler you are downloading, then it also downloads the header files which contain the definitions of all the functions. So here, whenever you are using any of the function in your C program, then you have to provide the proper header file also. So here, header file comes always on the top. So let us suppose that in our void main, if I am going to write the print statement, so here I will write simply printf, and I want to print my name here. Let us suppose Ankit. Now for this printf, I should be having the header file. So I will provide on the top that the header file for printf is nothing but hash include. Hash include is the pre-processive directive. With the help of that, we can include the header files. So hash include, we will provide the name of header file, and the name of header file is stdio, which is standard input output .h, which stands for header file. So this is stdio.h. Now you should understand that this is the file which is already available into your C programming. It contains the definition of printf function. So whenever you write this line printf, now this line is given powers. Powers means there is a code written behind that. So that power will come from this header file, which is hash include stdio.h. Now this printf statement, whatever is written here, let us suppose Ankit is written here. So this Ankit will be displayed on the user screen. Why? Because this printf function will get all the commands which it wants from the header files. To include the header file in your program, we need a pre-processive directive which is called hash include. All the header files which are part of C programming, they are having their extension which is .h. Then afterward we are having the next part of the structure of C program, that is declaration part. To understand the declaration part, I am taking an example of the memory. We know that our computer is having the memory. It can be primary memory or secondary memory. But whenever you are dealing with the programming language, at that time you have to store some kind of values. Now let us suppose that you want to store a integer value. Then for storing the integer value, first of all we have to declare the variable. Now let us suppose I want a integer type. Integer, we know that if I want to store, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 or anything which don't have any decimal value, then we need a integer variable. So the format says we will write int. Int stands for it is the integer. Then afterward we will provide the name of variable. You can take any name. You can give your name also. I can even say that int Ankit. But for the programming, we mostly use ABC, XYZ. So I am saying int A. Now, what does that mean int A? So inside the memory of your computer, there will be one block reserved. So this is one block of the memory. Now that will be given name A. The memory can have its own address. Let us suppose that memory is placed at the address, let's say 101. So here, this is the memory address and the memory is given the name which is A. So once you are mentioning the line int A, so one variable is declared which is name A. Now what is variable? You can see that name is variable because its value vary. Every time the user is changing the value change. That's why it is called variable, because its value change. Let us suppose that I am saying afterward int A equal to 20. Now what that mean? Now this block of memory contain value which is 20. So wherever you are going to say A will be converted to 20. Now you can use this A for storing the value. So we can say that this A is a variable of integer type which is storing the value that is 20. So this is called the declaration part. Here we are declaring. Let us suppose that you want one float variable. So here we are saying simply float. We know that floating point values are into the decimal. Let us suppose I am saying float b. Now the meaning is that let us suppose in the memory we are having one block. Now this block is having the address, let us suppose 102. So here name will be given, that is b. So the name of variable is b. If I will say, let us suppose that 17.9, this is the floating point value in decimal. So here this 17.9 will be stored into the b. B is the variable. So we can say that this is the variable b of float type and having the value which is 17.9. Let us suppose that you want to store your first character. Let us suppose that my name is Ankit. I want to store A only. So simply I will write char. Char is the data type and the variable I am using is C. So char C. So one block of memory will be reserved, and here let us suppose that it is 104 or any address it can be. Now here it is C. So it will be named as C. Now equal to, I want that my first letter should be coming here and the letter represent with the single quote. So here A will come inside this place. So this is how we can store the values inside the variable. That storing of the variable is called the declaration. So whenever we are saying int a, float b, char c, this is called the declaration part. Means we are going to declare something. And afterward, if we are providing this value, it is called the initialization part. So here in this, we are having int a or the float b or the char c. So this is called the declaration. That means we are going to declare some variable of integer type, float type or character type. But here if we talk about a equal to 20, here we are giving the value of a, b equal to 17.9 or c equal to single a. So this is called the initialization. So whenever a variable is given some value, let's say 20, 17.9 or a, depending upon its data type, so that is called the initialization of value or called initialization. So here declaration part contain the local variables. Here we are having the term which is called local variable. There are two types of variable. One is local and second one is global. As the name signifies local, that means they can be locally accessed. You understand that whenever we start with the bracket, so here, and we are ending till the bracket here. So this is one boundary. Inside the boundary, if we are declaring any variable, let us suppose that we have declared a variable a or b or c. Inside the boundary, starting from this bracket to the ending bracket, so these variables can only be accessed inside this boundary only. Means wherever this bracket will start until this bracket will end, whatever you are writing the program inside, they can use its value. Outside world, if I want that here, outside I can access no, or above I can access no. So their value of ABC I cannot access globally because these are the local variable. Whenever you are declaring any variable inside a bracket, they can only be accessed inside that bracket only. Let us suppose that these variables are declared inside the main. So they will be accessed only inside the main, not above or not below. So they are called the local variables because they are the part of some kind of boundary. Next part in the structure of C programming is executable part. If we talk about the executable part, it is the part which is going to be executed. That means if we are writing some kind of code which will affect in the program, and which will give some type of printf statement or maybe some calculation which is other than the declaration. That is called the executable part. So here let us suppose that I want to print something. Let us suppose that I want to say simply printf. We know that in the C programming we used to write the printf function for printing, and in the bracket I want to provide my name. So here I am writing Ankit here in the double quotes. So this Ankit will be displayed on the screen. Well, I am not following the complete syntax. Here I am not providing the semicolon and everything. We are learning here. So let us suppose that we are going to print Ankit on the user screen. So this is called the executable part. Or we know that we have declared a variable a which is having the value 20. Now if I want to print that on the user screen, so simply I will write printf and in the bracket I will write a. So here the output of this program will be coming as Ankit because it is the part of double quotes. So that will be displayed as it is. And A is having value 20. So 20 will come. So this is how all those statements which are executed in the same manner, which are other than the declaration, they are called the execution part. So these are the statements of the C code. So in the executable part, we are having the lines of the code which will be executed. So this is the part of structure of C program. Next part in the structure of C program is user-defined functions. We know that we are having the main function, which is the driving function, and it is defined by the system. It is not a user-defined function. But let us suppose that I am the user or I am the coder. I want to provide my own function with my own name. That is called the user-defined function. And user-defined functions are just outside the main. You can see that this is the main function and this is the user-defined function. So here the boundary of user-defined function is after the main function. So let us suppose that we are having the program here. In the program, I want that there should be a function with the name sum. I want to make the sum of two numbers. So simply I will make a function void. Void means no return type. That will depend. If I am providing int, that means I want some return type. If I am providing void, that means I don't want anything in return. Now afterward, let us suppose that I want to provide the name sum. Here I can provide my own name also. I can simply say void Ankit. So it is totally up to you. Here I am giving the brackets. This is starting and the ending bracket. That means this is a function. Now here let us suppose that it is having the starting bracket and the ending bracket. So this function is outside the main. So this sum function is outside the main. And also this function name is user defined. Here we can provide any line as per our requirement. Let us suppose that in this sum function, I want to display the sum of two numbers. So simply I can say that, let us suppose printf. We know that printf statement is for printing. Now afterward in the bracket, let us suppose that I want to say a plus a. It can be any line, but you should understand that this is the user defined function. So here if we talk about the user defined function, they are defined by user, which is outside the main function. Now we are discussing the next part in structure of C program, that is function call. Now understand very important thing. We know that the main function is the driving function, means whenever the program will start, compiler will automatically call this main function. But here we have defined one sum, which is the user defined function. Now who is going to call this function? This is the function which will be called by the function call. So here inside the main we are having the function call. This function call is going to call the user defined function. We know that the main function is called automatically. Main function is the system defined function. It is called by the compiler. But if I am defining my own function, let's say my name is Ankit, so I am making the function Ankit, or maybe I am making a function which is sum. So somebody should be say there to call that function. This is called the function call. So if I see the real life example that how the function will be called, so we should understand that what is the name of user defined function. So here we can see that the name is sum. So in the body of main, we are going to write the same name here, which is sum. So the name of user defined function we are using, and afterward we are putting the starting bracket and the ending bracket. So this is called the function calling, and whenever I will write this line, this is going to call this function. So here this sum with the bracket is called the function call. That means we are going to call the function. So it is used for calling the user defined function from the main. Next part of the structure of C program is global declaration. Earlier we have learned that there is the declaration part, which is called the local declaration. So here int a equal to 20, this is the local variable or the local declaration. Why it is local? Because we know that here we are having the starting bracket and it is ending with the ending bracket. So this a is accessible only inside this boundary. So here it can be accessed. But let us suppose that if I want to access this a outside, let us suppose that here in this sum I want to take this a. So here it is going wrong. So this is not the proper declaration, because here if I want to access this a, that is not possible because they are outside the boundary. What is the boundary? The starting bracket and the ending bracket where a is defined. So this is the local declaration. To overcome this problem, we are having the global variables, or we call that this is the global declaration. So global declaration comes above the main function. So now understand that if we have declared one variable here inside the main boundary, so it can only be accessed inside the main, but it cannot be accessed inside the user defined function. But here if I am declaring a global variable or the global declaration, so global variables are accessible inside the main as well as they are accessible inside the user defined function. So here they are called the global declaration. Let us suppose that if I am simply assigning a variable here above the main, so I am writing above the main that int, let us suppose that I am taking a variable a. Now this variable a which I am defining, this can be accessed inside the main as well as this variable can be accessed inside the function, user defined function sum. So here this is called the global variable because this is above the main. It is not the part of any boundary. So this is the global variable. So this a is accessible everywhere. That's why it is called global, globally accessed. So we can say that global declaration is used to declare the global variable. Whenever we declare a global variable, so the global declaration is accessible to all the functions. It can be system defined, just like the main function, or can be user defined, just like here we have taken the example of sum function. So global variables are accessible to all functions. Now we are discussing the last part of structure of C program, that is the comments. If we talk about the comments, as the name signify, commenting means saying something about somebody. So here comments can be anywhere inside your program. It can be the part of main function, or it can be the part of user defined function, or even you can write these comments anywhere, above declaration, above execution, anywhere. Let us suppose that I am doing a coding. Now, after this coding, I am giving you the software. If you are going to read my code, then maybe chances that you will not able to understand, because where I have defined the variables, where I have used the function, which function I am using, so I have to explain that. So this is called the comment. Now let us suppose that here in the main I want to signify that this is the main function. So simply I will start with a slash, then put a star, then afterward I will simply write that this is the main function. So here I will write that this is the main, then afterward putting a star and slash. So here inside that whatever I am writing, compiler will not read that. Compiler will just skip this area. It is for the comment. So here let us suppose that I am using this sum. I can simply write this slash, then star, then afterward I can say that this is the function call. So I can write here, this is function call. Now afterward I will simply apply star and slash. Now user can read that here I am calling a function, but compiler will not read this. Compiler will not execute any of the line which is the comment. So comment is only for readability. So whenever you just open my code, you will see that yes, so this is the function call, this is the main function, this is the variables declared. So this is how anywhere we can apply the comment. It is for the readability of code. So we can say that comments are used for the documentation. There are two types of comments in C programming. One is the single line and second one is the multiple line. If we want that only a single line should be having the comment, let us suppose that simply I am writing here Ankit. So here if I write this, now this is the only one line. Now here I can simply apply double slash. So this is called the single line comment. But let us suppose that I am having multiple lines. Let us suppose that I am writing here Ankit. Now afterward in the next line I am writing something. Let's say Verma I am writing here. Now I don't want that in every line I should provide this double slash, because let us suppose that there are 50 lines, I want to make them comment. Let us suppose that I want to write a paragraph on my code. So inside that I am writing this. So is it that I will provide everywhere the double slash? No, I will use the multi-line. So simply I will start with slash, put the star. So comment will start from here, and where I want to end, I will simply end with the star and slash. So this is the multi-line comment. So here in the program we have shown that this is the multi-line comment. Now it is totally up to you. Let us suppose that you are having 5 lines, and in the 5 lines you want to apply a single line comment, no problem. Or if you are even having a single line, you want to provide a multi-line comment, no problem. So it is totally depending upon you. But the thing is that if you are simply applying this single line comment, means double slash before any of the thing, so that compiler will not read that. And if you are starting with slash and star, then afterward whatever you are writing till the star slash, everything will be the part of multi-line comment. So here this Ankit and this Verma, both are the part of comment. Compiler will not read that. So that means inside our program we are having this main. So this text will not be read by the compiler, because starting and ending with the comment. And here this function call, this will not read by the compiler because it is the part of comment. So comment you can provide in single line or the multiple line, and it is for the documentation purpose. So here we have completed the structure of C program. But in the C program, everywhere whenever we complete a statement, then afterward semicolon will come. So accordingly we have to provide the semicolon. But if we talk about the header file, they don't have the semicolon. Then again, if we talk about the main function or the user defined function, they don't have the semicolon. But if you are declaring a global variable, then you need the semicolon. If you are declaring a local variable, if you are putting some kind of execution part or the statement or the code inside the main or inside the user defined function, they will be having the semicolon. You should see that where the semicolon is required. So if we talk about the structure of C program, so first of all, we are having the main. Main is the driving function. It is the system defined function. Whenever you are making a code, your code will start from the main. Then afterward, we are having the header file. So header file can be those files which are the part of C library. Just like whenever you are using a function inside the main, then you need the header file. Let us suppose that I want to make this printf. So for the printf function, we need the header file which is stdio.h. And these functions are the part of main, which is the driving function. Then afterward, we are having the declaration part. So this declaration is the part inside the main. So just like I have declared one variable int a and given the value as 20, this is called the local declaration because this is accessible inside the boundary of main only. It cannot be accessed outside. Then afterward, we are having the execution part. Execution part is the part which contain the code which will be executed. Just like we have used this printf Ankit. Now this will be displayed onto the user screen. So this is the executable part. Then afterward, we are having the user defined functions. If I want to create my own function, let's say I want to create the function name Ankit or function name sum. So these are the user defined function and these are outside the boundary of main. Now these function can perform any task which we want to specify. Let us suppose that in this case we want to print something. Afterward, we are having is the function call. We are having the function. Now these functions should be called. So to call these functions, we are having the function call which is going to call the function. So here we can see that this sum, which is the name of function with the bracket, is the function call which is going to call the user defined function. Then afterward, we know that the local variables, just like we have declared this a, they are not accessible outside the main. So there should be some variables which can be accessed everywhere. So the next part comes which is called the global declaration. So the global variables can be accessed inside the main as well as they can be accessed outside the main. Means they can be accessed in user defined function also. So here above the main we have defined int a. So this a can be used by the main function as well as it can be used by the user defined function which is the sum. So this is the global variable which is globally accessed by everyone. Then afterward we are having is the comments. Comments can be anywhere. It can be the part of main or it can be the part of user defined function. So wherever you are providing this comment, compiler will not read that. It can be single line or multiple line. So here we can see that starting with /* and ending with the */. These are the comments and compiler will not read this line. So this is the structure of C program.